I'm Fatheree.
I'm Anna.
This is Dave.
This is Trent.
And this is TEX-TREK.
Engage.
So welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 59th installment of the TEX-TREK podcast. And tonight we are going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 7, Light and Shadows.
It's the Spock episode.
Yep. They stopped
Yeah.
Spock teasing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thing, but it's the Spock episode. They took forever to get there.
The Spock teasing can stop. I thought we were going to get Spock blocked
Hey.
right before they showed him for the first time, but it didn't happen.
Nope.
How was I not aware that they were using that terminology?
Yeah, we have full-blown Spock out and about. This episode was called Light and Shadows. It was written by Ted Sullivan, based on a story by Ted Sullivan and Vaughn Wilmot, and directed by Marta Cunningham. Marta Cunningham, by the way, happens to be the wife of James Frain, who plays Sarek on Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, interesting. So it's in the family forum.
Yeah, and it's really cool because in this episode, she has to direct a woman having an argument with her husband as
Do you think she was like, really let him have it? Really, just...
Yeah, well...
His arguments are crap.
You would think that, she would be like the authority on like arguing with him as wife to husband.
That's pretty cool.
So that's probably the best direction you can get. But we do have Anna on board for the first time making her TEX-TREK debut. So Anna, whenever we have a new guest, we do like to, if time allows, just to ask, how did you get into Star Trek? What is your relationship with the franchise?
Well, it was 1953. No, I'm kidding. Just watching it with my dad when I was a kid. It was like right in that time period where TNG and Voyager and DS9 were all on.
Oh, wow.
And so basically it was on the TV.
The golden
every
age,
other day.
yeah.
So
The 90s.
Did y'all watch
Those are
all
good times.
three of them, or just like certain ones?
my dad tried to tune into at least an episode here and there of every single one of them, but
Okay.
not like religiously.
Okay.
So
And did you like it right from the get-go, or was it like, there's a family thing and it's just kind of fun to do?
I mean, kind of. I was also like an 8-year-old, and I can't think of anything less exciting than people sitting in a room talking to one another, even if there are lasers and stuff. But, like, as I grew up, it was something I appreciated more.
Yeah.
Did you have any like favorite shows or favorite characters that really stood out to you?
Worf, he was large. And Janeway, she was a chick, so... Just sort of, those are the things that stick out to you when you're an 8-year-old, I guess.
Anna, you marathon disco. You were not like keeping up with it before, and then you just bam, like knocked it out after watching it at the store a little bit, and then like jumping in on it.
Yeah, like one of the other guys up at the store basically was like,
That's
you
Rogues
haven't
Gallery
watched
Comics
it?
and Games, by the way.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
He was like, you haven't watched it, I can't believe this. We're watching it now. And thankfully it was kind of a rainy day, so it was slow, and I plowed through like 5 episodes, and then immediately went home and paid for the subscription.
Very awesome. Trent?
Good to be back. It's been like a year or two since I think I've been on. I can't even remember the last time.
This is your 4th appearance.
Yeah, I think so.
You talked Encounter at Farpoint with us.
Yeah,
you
and
talked
a little bit of DS9.
Yeah, Emissary.
Yeah, Emissary.
And then you also showed up in season 1 of Discovery when we were doing Magic to Make the Sanest Man
That's
Go
right,
Mad.
yeah.
So whenever we have a temporal anomaly episode on Discovery,
the resident temporal expert, I think.
Yeah.
They've been doing a lot of like time stuff, a lot of timey-wimey episodes lately. Like,
Fatheree loves those episodes.
Yeah, I do. I'm a sucker for the temporal anomalies.
Yeah. Well, we all know. No, but yeah, I've pretty much every time there's a temporal thing that I just show up.
The are you a fan of Star Trek's like time travel?
Yeah. I feel like they might do it a little bit too much. Like, what was it? The episode we were just watching, the season 2 of TOS.
Assignment Earth.
Yeah, where it's just, by the way, we went back in time, and it's like
that's the only time they ever say that, though.
Like, we just went back in time. That's what we do.
That's
like,
for those who don't know, that's the Gary 7 episode of the original series that was written to be a backdoor pilot for a potential TV show. So they didn't really explain what the Enterprise was doing back in time and what would have been the setting for this potential show that never got made. But
so yeah, they do it often, but usually I enjoy it.
They're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna go down the line and give our general thoughts on this episode. Everyone can give a brief opening statement. We'll avoid spoilers, and then we'll go into more detail. I'll go ahead and go first. And, my general thoughts on this episode, it reminds me a lot of the third episode of the season, Point of Light, in that it felt very much like what me and Dave described as a housekeeping episode. This episode had to move certain plot lines forward and set up stuff that we'll be seeing in the second half of the season. I kind of feel like this episode was also written with the idea in the back of their heads that this could possibly be a mid-season finale, in that we do finally have the payoff of Spock, but they wanted us to still be hungry for more, to still want some of the mysteries solved of what exactly is going on with Spock, what's the deal with the Red Angel. So it feels like it's just kind of like your middle of the season episode. We just had like a big event last week with Saru's people on Kaminar, and this was more of, instead of focusing on a major plot point in the season arc, it was just more setting things up for the rest of the season. But overall, I did like it. And there were a couple things that bugged me that we'll get into later, but that's all I got. Anna?
Is it some dumb continuity stuff?
We'll find out. Anna, what do you got?
I felt like there are some fun character moments in it, and as a whole, I did like it. But like you were saying, it felt like a lot of like just opening up of new pathways for them to explore. Though I didn't really feel like it was a mid-season finale. In fact, I felt more like last week's was the finale, and this was like, we're getting back into it, because you had stuff with like, like Tilly being adorable, and like some of the just character introductions where they were
Hashtag
sort of like,
silly for Tilly.
Reminder, these people exist and this is their personality. And so I felt like there was a lot of like almost baby stepping, I guess, with certain things.
They definitely, in the opening, like, 5 minutes, they did a complete recap of things. Mm-hmm. It was like without doing a previously on.
Yeah.
I liked that, though, because instead of doing the previously on recap, they incorporated it into the episode with Burnham's log entry. I would like them if they could just do that every episode instead of doing a previously on recap that exists outside of the episode.
I sort of agree, although if you watch them all at once, it may be a little... exposition might get a little heavy-handed doing
like
that.
Whenever you're reading a Green Lantern comic and they all start off with like...
Hal, as you remember...
It was just like, I'm Hal Jordan, I'm Green Lantern of Sector 2814. It's like, if you're like reading a bunch of issues, like they all start off like that.
Right, it's supposed to be like every chapter of the book reminding you that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a good time with the episode?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I mean, I always like Pike. I think he's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Every time Anson mounts on the TV show, I'm super stoked. Nothing to like complain about aside from just my general pet peeve.
But also not like, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like...
Did we all like the Saru episode prior to this?
Yes.
Pretty
yeah.
well?
Yeah,
that was a very standalone, potent, like, one-off kind of episode.
In fact, that's kind of why I was almost a little bit let down by this one, because I was expecting, like, huge momentum coming from the last episode into this.
Right.
And just, it's sort of like, momentum just...
Right. I think I like this episode notably more than the previous housekeeping one, and I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe we'll process it during the course of talking about it. I think in some ways I was like a little bit dazzled by, like, to me it was just exciting to see Vulcan fully realized so visually, which had, previously existed as like nice matte paintings, occasional, I think, CG shots in previous ones, but this was a really, really nice use of special effects on that. I was into the mystery and stuff, and the Pike and the buddy comedy starring Pike and Ash Tyler.
I loved that.
Ash Tyler? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
For some reason, it didn't sound right. A little hit and miss as far as like being unfocused, maybe. And as we've talked about often, I prefer standalone episodes, or mostly standalone episodes. But I think I enjoyed just about everything in it. So.
Yeah. I think I liked the buddy cop part of it more than the Burnham focused stuff. I think that whenever they shove two very different personalities into a shuttle, that usually makes for a good episode.
That's interesting.
Like
the Picard, Wesley.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
or Bashir, O'Brien kind of thing.
Yep.
So I thought that that's pretty much a fail-safe kind of formula.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
I will say they did that poorly on Enterprise with the characters Trip and Malcolm in the season 1 episode Shuttle Pod 1. And I know like a lot of people really like that episode, but I hated it in 2001. I hate it in 2019.
Yeah, not every crammed in a shuttle episode can be a winner, but I think you make a good point that it's kind of a fun formula.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a Trek thing to put some disparate personalities together.
Yeah, I thought that stuff worked a little bit more than the Michael Burnham Spock stuff personally. It's not an episode I think I'm going to be like really excited about when I go back and watch, but I think it was solid.
Out of curiosity, is anybody like... I don't feel too concerned with the Burnham-Spock relationship. Like, it hasn't drawn me in somehow.
You're not curious to see what she did to drive the wedge between them as children?
I liked it better when we thought it might have happened later and we thought they might have had a relationship. That was terrible. That was sexy time.
You wanted them to be like Lannisters from Game of Thrones.
They were not related.
I mean, but like they grew up in the same house. It would still be weird.
Woody Allen did that, and there's nothing weird about him.
To be fair, there's lots weird about Woody Allen, but that's for a different podcast.
Right. No, I guess I won't know that until I get the answer. But right now, I'm not like, I'm really looking to hear that one.
Where I'm at is I like the family drama in the House of Sarek, but I'm not that curious about Spock specifically, or I didn't mind all the episodes where they were just teasing Spock and not actually showing him. Because we've had so many episodes with Spock, and at this point I'm so focused on the Discovery characters. I don't need Spock on the show.
We already talked about the risk that Pike could kind of overwhelm the show because he's a really charismatic personality. If Spock was like there too long, that runs the risk too. Luckily in this he's just speaking gibberish.
They also run the risk of doing something like too weird with Spock, or something that just like really bothers me and ruins the character. I don't
Spock in his stoner days.
Yup.
I don't think I have too much to worry about, but there is some risk there. Let me ask this. What would you consider the A story and the B story of this episode? Is Pike and Tyler on the shuttle, is that the A story? Or is Burnham and Spock the A story?
Or is it a double B?
Is that like a brawl size?
I think, in the future.
Honestly, I think the shuttle, just because that's dealing directly with Red Angel stuff. And, like, the idea of, like...
The captain could die.
Like, also, like, the stakes are pretty high. So it's got, like, the Section 31 Discovery drama as these two butt heads. And, like, I don't know. It's dealing with something that I think will span the entirety of the series, rather than just something that has been a focus of a couple episodes in a row.
I would say that the Burnham Spock stuff also has a lot of that with, that's continuing the investigation of the Red Angels. That's why they're after Spock.
That's fair.
But it's less concrete. It's like we don't know what his role is going to be. Right now, he's just like this kind of nebulous thing.
Well, the shuttle story, that has a self-contained beginning, middle, and end narrative within this
and there is
episode.
A character arc in that.
And
first they don't like each other, and then they're married at the end.
I agree with Trent, though. That was my favorite part of the episode. Are we all in agreement that we liked that more than the Burnham Spock stuff?
I think so. I was honestly a little bit more into the visuals on Vulcan than the character stuff.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and go into the warp speed summary.
All right,
you've been warned. There's going to be spoilers throughout the remaining podcast, and I'm not really sure how to summarize these two largely unrelated storylines in this episode.
Yeah, good luck, Father.
So we're just gonna toggle back and forth between both of them. But warp speed summary starting now.
Hit it.
So Michael Burnham heads off to Vulcan to check on her family and look for Spock, while Pike and the Disco crew stay in orbit of Kaminar to investigate the scene after the Red Angel appeared there last week. It left behind traces of residual decay that the ship has been tasked with analyzing. Before they get too far, a temporal rift opens in space. They can't get too close to it and are unable to launch a probe as they can't get a target lock. So Pike loads the probe onto a shuttle that he can pilot closer to the rift himself. He brings along his least favorite person on the ship, Section 31 Agent Tyler. The shuttle is able to get closer, but does encounter some temporal anomalies, including Pike seeing a vision of himself shooting a phaser at Tyler. A glimpse at the future, maybe? Pike chooses to keep the troubling premonition to himself. They launch the probe from the shuttle into the rift, but this causes a temporal shockwave and the shuttle disappears into the rift. Saru commands the crew to begin a rescue mission, as they only have 5 hours to rescue Pike and Tyler before they are killed by radiation. Good thing Stamets is still on board. His tardigrade DNA makes him immune to the effects of timey-wimey temporal anomalies. The crew gets to work on figuring out a solution. But let's check in on Mickey B. Burnham returns home to planet Vulcan and goes to Sarek and Amanda's house, where she grew up. She is hoping Amanda might have some info on where her foster brother is. Amanda is still a little bitter at Michael and unsure if she can be trusted around Spock. Remember a few episodes ago, Burnham confessed that she intentionally drove a wedge between herself and Spock when they were children, and the family has never been the same since. Amanda is worried about Spock being accused of crimes she feels he could not have possibly committed. But Burnham assures her foster mother that she only wants what's best for Spock. After Amanda is convinced, she takes Burnham to the Sacred Crypt. Amanda has been hiding Spock there for 2 days. We finally get to see adult Spock on the show, but he's not quite himself. He seems out of his mind, mumbling Vulcan logic doctrines and Alice in Wonderland quotes, while ignoring everyone around him. He's also repeating a series of numbers again and again. 841947. 841947.
One more time.
841947.
Thank you.
But Sarek shows up. I guess he followed them there. And we learn that Amanda was hiding Spock from Sarek because she feared he would turn their son over to the authorities. Sarek says that Spock needs to be turned over as he's the only key to the Federation figuring out the mystery of the Red Angel and the Red Bursts. He also says that Michael must turn him over to Section 31 as he doesn't want to see her defy Starfleet orders again after what happened in Season 1. He's not prepared to lose both of their children on the same day. But meanwhile, back in orbit of Kaminar, Tyler and Pike are still in the shuttle swirling around in the temporal rift when suddenly the shuttle is struck by the probe they launched. Turns out the probe traveled 500 years into the future, got modified by someone with future technology, and then sent back to them. And it ain't no normal probe anymore. It grows mechanical tentacles and attacks their shuttle, like a scary squid robot that breaks through the shuttle's hull with Dr. Octopus-esque robot arms. It attacks Tyler with these metal tentacles. And as one of them is wrapped around Tyler, Pike picks up a phaser. He realizes this is the vision he saw earlier. He shoots the phaser at the mechanical arm, releasing Tyler from it, but then the tentacle attacks the shuttle's computer console and tries to hack the Discovery's computer systems. Luckily, Stamets is able to beam aboard the shuttle. He uses his temporal immunity to pilot the shuttle out of the rift. Tyler, Pike, and Stamets beam off the shuttle and set it to self-destruct to stop the probe's attack on their computer. However, the probe seems to have left something in the computers that has some type of effect on Arium, Discovery's cyborg crew member. More on that later. As for Burnham, she arrives at Leland's Section 31 ship and turns over Spock, who is taken into medical custody. Leland tells Burnham she needs to get off the ship, but not to worry, they'll take good care of Spock. Georgiou is there, however, and she informs Burnham that Section 31's procedure to extract the Red Angel information from Spock's brain will kill him. Burnham is reluctant to trust her, but ultimately she decides leaving Spock in Section 31's hands is not worth the risk. She grabs Spock, makes a run for the shuttle, and gets the hell out of there. Section 31 ships patrol an asteroid field searching for Burnham's shuttle. She evades them and has the computer search for anything relevant related to Spock's numbers in the reverse order. She figures out that he had reversed them in his kooky state. The computer lets us know that the numbers are coordinates for Talos 4. That's the setting of the original and unused Star Trek pilot, The Cage. Burnham sets a course for Talos 4 and roll credits. So, just real quick, one thing that I think we need to bring up before we delve into anything else is the little setup they do towards the end of the episode where we see those 3 red circles that affected Arium. It looks like something like downloaded into her robot brain.
Yep. Doesn't that look like Brainiac's thing from Superman the Animated Series?
It was 3 red circles, so I'm guessing that was something Bruce Timm came up with when he was doing the animated series, but that was the origin of Brainiac in DC Comics Superman villain having the 3 circles as a logo.
Now, to be fair, I don't think there's a way to copyright 3 dots.
No,
like the Predator, I think, also had like 3 dots when it targeted you. And anyway, but yes, it was a little bit. It did remind me of that for sure, and clearly you as well.
But don't talk about copyright stuff, because then like the same people who think that Discovery ripped off the tardigrade video game are gonna say that's ripping off like Superman cartoons now.
And now they're ripping off the original series episode, The Cage.
Yeah, we're having Talos 4 again. But so I'm just gonna throw out like a little theory I have here. Is that what if whatever in the future sent like those 3 dots back in time through the probe into the computers, they got into Arium.
Yeah.
What if she is the Red Angel? And I have just something else.
She's gonna go and like build that suit based on the input from the future.
Well, here's what I think that, and then I'm just gonna throw it out to y'all and see what you think.
The dots were red.
She is played by a different actress this season. They recast Arium.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if there was a reason they did that. Maybe they wanted a different performance and needed a new actress.
Huh.
But
I was not aware of that.
You were aware of that.
I didn't remember.
You had forgotten.
Yeah, whatever.
But so what do the 3 of y'all think about this character who's had very few speaking lines that we know absolutely nothing about? What do you think about the possibility of her being the Red Angel?
Well, I think that the fact that she's had very few speaking lines thus far is probably why they recast her. Like, in the first season, she basically was just like...
Button pusher.
Yeah, like, she was a setting piece. And so I don't think there's possibly a connection, but I would be excited if she turned out to be the Red Angel, because I've always thought she looked cool and I want to see more of her.
Clearly they're going to do something with her. I mean, they put enough in this episode, enough ominous shots of her looking...
very heavy-handed.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, even if it's not the Red Angel, she's going to be something.
Yeah, she's going to be the center of another episode.
Right, or like
in the
she...
near future.
From the information downloaded into her, begins gathering the stuff to make the suit that creates the Red Angel, and somebody else steps into it or something like that. I'm not super wild about it, just in the sense that she is a sort of almost non-character at this point. So it's not a super potent reveal if it's just her. So just on a dramatic level, I'm not sure if I'm super into it. But I can see where they could take it somewhere interesting. So I'm cautiously neutral. Neither optimistic nor pessimistic about
but cautious.
Okay.
But cautious nevertheless.
I will say this. We learned at the beginning of the episode that Amanda taught Burnham that mysteries always come in sets of 3. And we have 3 dots.
I didn't like that line, actually.
Yeah, I thought that was lame.
That was one of those.
Remember that line?
You know, every episode, like a lot of genre shows, have narrators. Like The Flash, I always think of it on the CW Flash show. You know, Barry Allen will say something like, you know, my parents taught me that a good story is more important than, you know, than standing up for, you know, yourself. And I'd be like, does some parent actually say these things? Does Amanda seem like a person who would actually say, like, things come in 3s?
What is that?
Isn't she at least somewhat logical and not kind of random like that?
What the hell are you talking about, Mom?
So like, what it works is that, like, it does build a thematic resonance, like, so that it works on sort of a raw level. But I was not wild about that opening. It didn't quite sound like her. It sounded like we have discovered a arcing theme or a visual, or like a motif for the episode.
It does make me wonder, like, what are they setting up with that, though?
But it would also, like, because we know that this is a science faith season, you know, a trinity is certainly, like, as religious an idea as you can get. What I'm saying is the dots were the Holy Trinity. Obviously.
So
and by Holy
Ariel?
Trinity, I mean Kirk, Spock, McCoy.
So Ariel is possessed by the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Yes.
And 500... That's like... The god of Abraham, 500 years in the future, sent the squid robot probe back in time to spread the gospel through a cyborg.
Could just call it a sentinel. That's what I'm doing.
Right. I assume
it's a Matrix.
It came from the
sentinel.
Matrix future.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a cool thing though. I've seen that sort of happen in sci-fi concepts before, where something gets radically changed, like devolved or evolved. And, like, the notion that it's, like, at first I was like, well, did it just go into the future and, like, futurize? But then why is a probe evil? There's been a lot of bad probes in Star Trek, to be fair. From the whale probe to Nomad to V'ger.
Yeah.
So really they should probably just stop launching probes, is what I guess I'm getting at. What were we talking about? Right. But so this one didn't just evolve and, like, become a futurized version of itself. It was, like, future and aggressive against them. Either, if not evil, then it certainly had an agenda from the future. Mm-hmm. Which I'm interested enough in that mystery. I thought that was kind of cool. They said 500 years, by the way.
So it'd be the 28th century.
Okay. 1,000 years was when the disco episode happened with
Kraft,
with the sentient ship.
Yeah, Calypso, the short trek episode.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm still really thinking that might end up tying in somehow, but
with the probe coming from 500 years in the future, you know, we know that eventually we'll have the Discovery computer become a self-aware entity at some point in the future. We also know that the Red Angel is from the future. They've made that pretty clear that, yes, it has to be future technology is the only explanation they have. So there's got to be some connection between the Red Angel and what happened with the probe and Arium, and you would think possibly with the ship also.
And now somehow, do you have a thought?
Do we know who the voice actress for the Discovery was in the short trek?
We do. I can't remember her name. It's not the same person who plays Arium, though.
Okay, so I was thinking that, like, maybe that there's some tie-in there, like, you know, android tied to the ship.
The Star Trek YouTuber Kit Walski had that theory, but I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the actresses are not the same.
Okay.
I think they would be real cautious about that because it would be such a quick way to tie it together, and fans would catch it fast.
Well, they also did change her voice actor, her actor.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say in season 1 they just invented an actor for Vogue, if you remember. What was the very real actor's name again?
Well, Shazad Latif, who plays Tyler in Vogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they had like a fake name in the
they had a fake IMDb. It was insane. The
credits. Anna, you didn't watch this when it originally aired. You just watched it recently. Did you know that Tyler was Vogue the Klingon all along, or was that a surprise to you?
That one was a surprise to me.
Okay.
I mean, I was getting some weird vibes from that whole plot, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, so I wasn't trying to pay too much attention to it. But yeah, no, it completely took me by surprise.
Because you mentioned to me that you were on to Lorca
immediately
from the beginning.
Immediately.
Yeah, and we were all kind of suspicious of him, and the mirror universe theories showed up pretty early. But yeah, the Vogue one, I think that was just people were wondering, where's this actor who doesn't seem to exist? They're like, oh, like, he kind of looks like this Tyler guy. Like, I mean, it's hard to tell with the makeup, but
yeah, there's basically with a week between each episode, speculation ran rampant, and eventually we got there. Just a real quick aside, I appreciated that Pike had talked to Tyler specifically about the Voke issue, you know, very specifically saying, hey, that's still in you or whatever, and, you know, what was it Tyler said about that?
he just said like,
nothing we can do about it. Or whatever.
He can't go away.
Right.
I can't get rid of him.
Yeah, I can't shake him.
And then like Pike is like, I know the feeling. Yeah. So let's talk about the Pike Tyler relationship a little bit. How they have that distrust, or Pike distrusts Tyler. I don't know if he distrusts Pike, but there's like a lack of respect between the two of them. And then like this episode did have them on an adventure, stuck in a shuttlecraft together, and they did go through an arc. So what does everyone think about that?
They tried to flip a switch at the same time. They're like,
it's like a radio in a cop car.
What if they had sensually touched?
Just kind of
what would be the Pike Tyler ship? That would be the a Piler.
Yeah, sure. Let's just say that.
No one's stopping that.
Oh man,
that's out there now. #Piler.
No, I liked the development of Pike, or I liked kind of the subconscious thing that they were developing. I guess with he's set out of the war, so he's looking for an adventure, looking to go headfirst into a battle.
Did y'all get the vibe? Is he suicidal?
I don't think so, but
he was putting himself way at risk, and I think that felt like it could be survivor's guilt.
This is a reaction to that scene last week when Tyler tells Pike, the war had a toll on those of us that actually fought in it,
right?
And that's been stuck in the back of his mind, and that's why he was so eager to prove himself, hop in a shuttle. And this is just more of me loving Pike so much this season, but they don't even make him this perfect infallible captain. They give him flaws, and I still like him through the flaws. That's really good character writing.
Yeah, I liked that a lot.
And then he holds himself accountable at the end. He tells Tyler, he's like, I was wrong. I was just trying to prove that I'm not a coward. I'm not scared of danger. I wanted to show that to you, and I'm sorry I've been a jerk to you. And they go through this little arc, and now they can get along better in future episodes.
I mean, to be fair, I think Pike had good reason to distrust him. Killed a member of the disco crew, Klingon lurking, their former enemies lurking around inside his psyche, and working for the dodgiest organization in Starfleet.
Yeah, he hates Section 31.
He probably doesn't like his hair either.
The man clearly needs a haircut.
Yeah.
I think my hair is a little longer than Tyler's. But,
well, I guess you could get away with that on the disco.
But I love how he sees that glimpse of the future, him pulling a phaser out and shooting at Tyler, and then he doesn't say anything about it. Because I don't think I would either. You're right. There's valid reasons not to trust Tyler.
Right. You can't say, hey, just so you know, there was a weird little temporal glitch there, and I think I might shoot you a little later. If you think the guy next to you might be traitorous, it's not something to bring up.
Yeah, no, I have visions of shooting you guys all the time, to be honest.
The dude in Office Space.
No, but yeah.
And that's cool little temporal anomaly storytelling sci-fi stuff that I love when they do this in Star Trek.
Yeah, and this is another thing, special effects wise, all the ghosting images and stuff, they got the budget to make that look really cool now.
I did think it was a little weird when Tyler is throwing his black badge at Pike. But
what was he doing there? I didn't quite get it, actually.
He was just showing him. He's like, I'm Section 31, mofo.
He was, they were comparing size, basically.
Right.
He's like, yeah, you owe this to me, and throws it in his lap, and it's like, well,
I guess it's just not a typical thing I think of to throw your badge at someone. Usually that's the cop who gives up, and he's pissed at about the rules and regulations and the red tape, and he throws his badge down and walks out. But he was like, Section 31, motherfucker.
Yeah, and then Pike is like, yeah, but I got the fucking captain's chair, so your black badge.
He was
going to
have to pick up that whole chair and like chunk that across the bridge.
But they do that. They make that so like a little distinctive moment, so that when you see it like replayed and a few seconds later, you're like, oh yeah, those things just happened a few seconds ago. So.
Yeah.
I did wonder like that if Pike had like a death wish or something going on.
Really?
Yeah, like it's clear. I mean, they spelled out that he's doing this because he has essentially a sort of survivor's guilt. But the fact that they made this out to be such a kind of potentially dangerous thing, like it felt like he was taking extra risks. Now, I don't think he's like suicidal, but the thought flitted through my head. I actually don't think it's necessarily accurate.
Well, we know that Pike gets guilty. That was one of the things that they established during Pike's brief appearances in the original series.
Right.
Is that, yeah, he gets guilty when his people under his command die, or fellow Starfleet officers die.
By the way, they haven't cast the Doctor, who was like his side, his buddy, his...
Dr. Broyce. But yeah, what would have been like the bones to his Kirk.
Right. And I figure they probably left that out because it's too much of an obvious McCoy-Kirk friendship comparison. Like, they'd rather have his friendship with number one played up. I think that was probably a good idea. But normally, yeah, he would be, like, turning to that guy for advice. At least that's what they seem to indicate in the Cage episode. Have you seen The Cage, by the way?
No, I don't believe so.
I've kind of had fun doing some homework episodes. Like, I watched the episode Contagion so I could see what was the alien race?
The Iconians.
The Iconians, that at least there was some speculation that the Red Angel could be an Iconian.
I think we can throw that out the window, though.
I agree. But it was fun to go and catch up on that. And I recommend, as your homework assignment, The Cage, just so you can see the original actor playing Pike, the original number one, and all that stuff. And some aliens we're clearly going to be seeing next week.
I'm going to ask that maybe we tweak that a little bit and instead recommend the Menagerie parts 1 and 2.
The canonical use of it?
Yes, because they use all the footage from The Cage. They basically have like flashbacks to this episode that never aired.
Okay.
It's
so that they could use the footage even though it wasn't Kirk, that they were like... Don't they like make out like this is like footage from cameras and stuff? Well, even though it has close-ups.
Well, no, they just say it was like provided by the Telosians. They don't know how Spock gathered it.
But they like framed it so beautifully,
right?
But there's a reason.
Is an art.
There's
cinematographers of the mind.
Why they did that? There's an explanation as to why. But we also you get to see like what happens to Pike, like the ending of the Pike story in those episodes, and it's so much more compelling now. Because I went back and I was rewatching some scenes from it last night, and it means so much to me now after I've had like the season of Star Trek Discovery to really begin to love this character. Mm-hmm. And I'll even say that the Pike in Discovery does feel very different from how he was on the original series, where he was kind of gruff. He was a misogynist. He's like, why are there women on the bridge? Because, it was written in the 60s. He was kind of a joyless captain. He was, in the story, he's having like a bad week. He just like lost a bunch of crew members on a mission that went poorly. But this guy is so different, and this just goes to what I've always said. If you're going to change something, I'm okay with it if you change it for the better. As big of a continuity junkie as I am, I'm okay with changes if they're changing for quality. Quality is king.
Oh, was that an episode title?
No, that was Context is for Kings. Or the conscience of the king, but...
with the reference to the Telosians, the aliens from The Cage...
We see them in the preview for next week. They're the big brain-looking people on Talos 4.
Classic Trek aliens. I did wonder if, like, the show was risking, like, getting a little too incestuous by having them happen to run into the aliens who will play such a big role later in his life. Because this is not actually... this is not the actual episode is not about to take place, is it?
No,
because he's on the Enterprise and stuff when that happens.
The events of The Cage have already happened before this.
Oh, so that... Okay, yeah. My timeline was a little wonky on that. So
Spock's already been there, too, so...
Yeah, Spock and Pike have both already been to Talos 4 before this episode.
Did you have a thought, Anna?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if we knew how much time was supposed to pass between the events from the original series and now.
Yeah.
So I guess, like...
But
from this
kind of answered it.
Right, well, I guess, like, Pike's episode, the failed pilot, was, what, a few years before?
2254.
Okay, and right now the current year in Disco is...
Well, the first season was 2256.
Okay.
Then there was a 6-month jump when Burnham was in prison.
Yep.
Then there was at least another month before the Discovery went into the Terran universe. Then they jumped forward 9 months when they came back. So they're either in the year 2258 or 2259.
Okay. And still a few years before Kirk.
And then the Kirk, Spock, McCoy era will begin in 65 or 66, depending on who you ask.
Okay.
So yeah, we're still a few years before that, but we're also we're a few years after when Pike and Spock went to Talos 4.
I guess the main thing is they're about to meet those old big brain aliens that can create illusions.
Yeah, and I'm curious how they're gonna use them.
I mean, is it possible the red bursts are illusions? Didn't they have almost illusory qualities?
That is possible.
Super hard to analyze.
Well, we know that the Red Angels are doing specific things.
That's clearly a real an actual thing, but I wonder are the Telosians could they in some way be helping or?
Oh, another thing we need to talk about while we're theory crafting, and Anna, this is going to be from an episode that I'm guessing you're not familiar with because it's from the original series. But Dave, what we saw last week with the Baiul.
Their ships look like the...
well, not their ships, but the Watchful Eyes. They look like the monolith from...
I'd mentioned it.
I was going to say,
okay.
I've heard you speak on it, so I'm relatively familiar.
So we might have a tie-in to the Preservers, who are a race that it was mentioned but never seen in the original series.
These are definitely some upper-tier aliens. These are not just these aren't like the Gorns throwing rocks. These are aliens with kind of high-level capabilities. So, yeah, there definitely seems to be an intent going on there and linking some of the, not godlike aliens, but like I say, getting up there.
Okay.
So what did y'all think about the other characters this week? We had, on the Discovery, we had Stamets and Tilly doing some science-y stuff to rescue Tyler and Pike.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Stamets' husband is alive, and we didn't do anything with that this episode, which was kind of strange.
No Dr. Colbert this episode.
I guess it's
like 2 in a row that...
Yeah, I guess so.
Mentioned.
I mean, I guess it's fairly easy to say he needs some downtime.
There you go.
I mean, that's
we did see him briefly last week.
He has to grow out the beard again. I missed the 5 o'clock show.
He looks weird, clean shaven.
Yeah.
He does.
Such a neatly done beard.
But that's how
so well groomed.
That's how you get recreated by a biological transporter from a mushroom realm.
They don't know shit about facial hair. So what I'm wondering, actually, I felt like the thing where Stamets is not affected by temporal stuff. That seems to me like a plot point that they just dropped that is going to be a huge thing in any future episodes.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who can probably have weird anomalous abilities anytime they do weird timey-wimey stuff, and that's kind of fun. It's like he's got a power now. I mean, he had a power before, but it's a power that outside of the mycelial drive itself.
I worry that might give them, they might rely on him too much, because, I mean, you're right, he is kind of the key to solving any temporal problem.
Right.
And he might start to feel like a one-trick pony, especially because they're not spore jumping
Well, I
as
suppose
much.
they could also have it where, I have a feeling they might show up in, someplace and he's I sense some sort of temporal anomaly, the way Troy would with weird emotions and stuff. But I can also see it backfiring. If they can, I'm sure there's interesting stories to come up with where he's more prone to some sort of problem, or he's, I don't know, all the time travel that happens with Kirk and those guys ends up physically causing pain to him, or who knows.
It might just be them trying to figure out something else to do with him, since he's not going to be doing the spore drive anymore.
I mean, he seems like a big theorist kind of science guy.
Yeah, but his
specialty is real specific.
His specialty is space mushrooms. He is an astromycologist.
Yeah. Maybe they should have just repurposed what the spore drive can kind of do. But yeah, I think you might be onto something though, that this he will become their science guy who can also do weird temporal stuff. Are they going to give him powers? I'm going to rewind that moment in time so you don't die.
Maybe he turns into the Traveler and then goes and hangs out with Wesley Crusher in The Next Generation.
Uh-oh, it's all coming full circle.
But let's talk about Tilly for a little bit. They definitely this season have been leaning into the make the fans happy type of attitude. And I guess because people got mad that she said the fuck word in season 1.
Why were they mad about that? It was adorable.
Because some people feared change, and there were people in the original series who got mad when Captain Kirk says, "Let's get the hell out of here" in the episode "City at the Edge of Forever."
It's true. I don't like when people blaspheme.
But so now Tilly says things like "freaking amazing" and "what the frick."
That was one of the things that I thought was like, I don't know, like really heavy-handed. Like they were like, "Look, we're not doing it anymore. Please don't hate us."
I guess I just thought they were just kind of being cute and referencing that, but I was enough in the moment that I didn't kind of think that this was actually them backpedaling. I guess it was, though. That's kind of too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we have noticed this season in some ways is more classic Trek-like.
Yeah, and that's a good thing most of the time, but I don't want to lose some of the things I like about Discovery in Season 1, when it was like a little bit more weird and had a unique identity, and was a little bit more bold and ambitious. You had a fucking mushroom ship.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's...
What if Spock goes on a swearing tear, and just nobody is ready for it, and just turns the screen blue?
Well,
I don't think they're going to do that.
What we did get with Spock, what was added to the continuity now is we know he was bullied not only because he was half human, but because he had a learning disability.
Space dyslexia.
Yeah, not the official term, but clearly the official term.
Yeah.
Well, they really spell it out to you that he has dyslexia.
5 times.
And
it's ridiculous.
You know, it's funny. It's like I feel like I'm like always like with any mystery on a TV show, I'm like a super doofus, and like I don't pick up on the clues or anything like that. So I noticed that they said that, but I didn't notice that they were kind of hitting you over the head with a little bit.
The first conversation between Amanda and Sarek when they're in the cave, when she says Spock had a hard time learning to read, he had a hard time, understanding writing, and it was something that he inherited from me. It's the Vulcans call it La Tak-Tarai. Sure. It's like, okay, when I was watching that the first time, I was like, okay, I understand they're talking about, like, dyslexia. And it's cool. Like, they're not really, like, spelling it out or, like, beating you over the head with it. But then they bring it up, like, 5 more times after that.
Yeah, it was probably a heavy-handed way to set up a mystery, but I'm a dumb person. So I was just like, when they did that, I'm like, what? The numbers are reversed? Okay, not quite like that. But I knew that they were going to use it for something.
The first time that they had that conversation, though, in the cave that I was just mentioning... I'm sure you understood it at that point, though, right?
Right.
So yeah, they didn't like you like.
I think I just didn't know what they were going to do with it. Like I don't like sort of. It is a little goofy that like the big reveal is just a simple 6-digit number is just flippy.
I was gonna say I couldn't believe that no one had thought about. Just
that's like a first video puzzle in a video game.
Yeah.
And you're kind of just they're like this game will have puzzles and here's how they basically work. It's a little like that, so they probably should up their game a little bit on that.
I almost wish that they had just like hit you with it in a very blunt way, like just Spock had dyslexia in school. Like I would have probably liked that a lot more because to the point where it felt like almost everything that her name is Amanda, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost everything that Amanda had like said was Spock has dyslexia. It was like it felt like that was her only dialogue option, and it made her as an actress kind of look lame, I guess. If that makes sense?
Yeah, you felt like she didn't really have a lot to do other than throw out this information several times.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, like the dialogue in that cave between Sarek and Amanda, it felt really stilted and unnatural. And that was my least favorite part of the episode. You know, it's interesting. I kind of like the dialogue because generally she has been the, I guess I'd say, acquiescent wife in most episodes I've seen, kind of keeping the family peace a little bit, but sort of deferring to him. And I did feel like that was a bit of a vestige of the 60s and the, sort of ingrained misogyny of the time. So I liked seeing her stand up to him. But that's a plot thing. That's not like a dialogue thing. I enjoy that being in the plot, but I don't like the execution of the dialogue. You just didn't like how it was executed. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I, however, do love the moment at the end of the scene where Sarek is like, no, Michael, you have to do this. You have to follow the rules and take them in because I don't want you to get in trouble again. When his emotion peeks through and he says, like, I can't, I'm unprepared to lose both kids. Man, he's like a big narc. Yeah, but that's how you should play a Vulcan, where you are super stoic and serious, and then just show like a hint of the emotion that your character where it starts to frame. Buries. Yeah. And that's how Vulcans should be written and how they should be played. Yeah, I generally like them.
Oh, I think that, like, if you're looking for an explanation for why that, like, argument felt so, like, almost awkward, is that, like, I'm trying to imagine, like, having an argument about something that I'm passionate about with someone who looks at everything through a completely logical lens. Like, I can't imagine trying to, like eat my desire to shake them while they wag their finger at me.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, it seems like a...
No, you can imagine, like, a protective mother who's looking out for their son, and that does kind of make sense that she's trying to be, like, cool, calm, collective, Vulcan society person.
Yeah, especially because they do mention it that, like, she's very displaced from her natural element because he was unwilling to do so. That, like, I mean, I guess this has probably been bubbling for a while, if that makes any sense. Yeah,
she's the one who chose to be, okay, I'll be the fish out of water and go live with you, my husband, and live on your world, and I'll assimilate to your culture.
Yeah.
You won't
when her
assimilate
son's life was at stake, it bubbles up.
Yeah.
So, you got anything on that, Trent?
The whole Section 31 thing seemed unnecessary, I think. Like, we start at the beginning of the episode, Spock's a fugitive on the run, and he meets Michael, and then a bunch of stuff happens, and then Spock is a fugitive on the run with Michael. It feels like there was, like, I don't know.
So Sarek telling Michael you gotta turn him into Section 31, he could have just been like... Or maybe they could have just ignored him and, like, they just gone off on,
the end result would have been exactly the same had that whole sequence never have taken place. But that's really all I had on that.
I mean,
that's a good point, though.
It did pave the way for... what were you saying you think could be cut? The Sarek stuff could have been cut?
Well, no, not the Sarek stuff. They take him to Section 31, and then they escape Section 31.
The entire Section 31 ship could have been cut out of the episode.
And we would have wound up in the same position. Although it did set up the big twist of the episode, which we haven't even really discussed, with Section 31 and Michael.
Right. Oh, yeah. Before you say that, though, it also set up a fight between Georgiou and Burnham, so we got to see Michelle Yeoh fight again.
Yeah.
Even if she was even if she was not throwing her all into it. And it showed that she has some sort of faith in Burnham and, a protective, maternal, whatever her ultimate goal is, she seems to be trying to look out for her.
Or is she?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
We don't know if we can... maybe when she said that, they're going to kill Spock, extracting his memories, like, that could have been the lie. We don't know.
I was going to say, she obviously has some ulterior motive. She wants to be the one in charge of Section 31, but in spite of that the dialogue between them was one of my favorite parts of the episode. Just the, like, and what, are you doing this out of the goodness of your heart? And she's like, no, I'm doing it out of the goodness of your heart, because I know that it's going to be damaging to you if I don't. And whether or not that's, like, true, I still think it's a good moment for the both of them and probably emotionally cathartic for Michael.
Michelle Yeoh is good at conveying, I think, that I'm looking out for you, or at least you want to think I am, because, like, she's charismatic and interesting, so you, like, want to believe her. I think the same way probably Burnham wants to believe her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like that, and it's a kind of a classic trope, you gotta rough me up so that we know that there was a fight here, before he breaks somebody out. I did think it was a little almost comic booky in the pejorative sense of, like, they were going to, like, brain wipe him or whatever. That was just a little bit silly.
Well, we do know that
and he was acting so, like, no, we're just doing this, we just want to help Spock, like Leland or whatever. And I'm like, wow, he sure doesn't sound like I thought he was before. Has he turned over a new leaf?
He sold the warmth. Both the actor and the character.
Right, he did. I'm just like... Yeah. Maybe it's just the dress in evil black and stuff like that, and then when they're suddenly nice, you're like, wait, you're evil.
We should talk about like the bombshell that Georgiou drops.
Yeah.
That she is pretty much going to be running the show on that Section 31 ship, it seems like, because we know from before that she likes to dig up dirt on Leland. Yeah. And now she says that she'll reveal to Burnham that he is responsible for the death of her parents. So, what do y'all think of that?
Flashback for me, how do parents die?
There was a Klingon terror attack on the colony of Doctori Alpha, and as she describes it, she hid in, like, the cabinet while the Klingons, like, went in their kitchen and raped her mother to death and murdered her dad, and then sat down, like, ate, like, their family meal that they were going to eat.
Ate their dinner.
It's messed up.
Yeah,
it's pretty fucked up. Yeah.
literally one of the worst imaginable things for a kid to have to listen to from a cabinet that they're hiding in.
I mean, let's be honest. She was probably like playing her Nintendo Switch or something during that. I know how the millennials are, the space millennials.
Kids. Yes, I would assume there has to be that some espionage happened and he orchestrated it. Is the only thing I can think of.
Sure, they pull a lot of strings.
Yeah. Alternatively, maybe it wasn't like a deliberate thing that he did. Maybe he dropped the ball on some intel, and it's less of a you did it, and more of an it's your fault.
Like he didn't intervene. Like this is like George Bush with like the memo on his desk with like Bin Laden attack on the World Trade Center imminent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten inside Leland's head before, so we don't know yet what his motivations are and like how, whether he has how much altruism is mixed in with his kind of any means necessary style.
What if it's like the FDR conspiracy theory where he lets Pearl Harbor happen so he can go to war type of thing? He could have prevented the attack and chose not to.
Could be.
But yeah, I mean, there's mysteries that are gonna keep me plugged in on the show because I want to see these things resolved.
And are setting up the Section 31 show.
Yes, which it looks like Georgiou is trying to take over Section 31. And what we know from later shows in Deep Space Nine, Section 31 is very different. People don't know about it, and it's much more mysterious. So I'm wondering what's going to happen if they're going
either
to...
like she takes it underground or like the kind of weird notion we talked about was like, well, what if she decides to dismantle it? She has some sort of come to Jesus moment and decides that it's too corrupt for her somehow.
She eats people. She ate people in the Mirror Universe. That character can't be redeemed.
What if she had never seen... what if she had never seen a counterexample and now she has? It's like if you grew up with gang members...
But she has to die. Life. She has to die in the process. I can't have her like stay alive as a hero.
Because we like to always take this back to X-Men comics. When Phoenix destroyed a planet and X-Men started became...
For those who don't know, we throw in many X-Men references on TEX-TREK. Haven't done it in a while.
It's very influential. When Phoenix became Dark Phoenix, she destroyed a whole star system, like a star, and destroyed an alien world. And originally, the writers just wanted to have the X-Men, like, sort of forgive her for it, and kind of like Xavier was going to go in and put some dampers up so that she could never, like, she would sort of get like a psychic lobotomy or whatever, but be safe. But the editor-in-chief was like, no, she has to die. And that's the story they ended up doing. They made it so she self-sacrificed and did it of her own volition.
Which was the correct call.
So you're the Jim Shooter in this. Jim Shooter was hated by the creator.
Hey, Marvel Comics were the best they've ever been when he was in control.
It is true.
But yeah, he sounds like the worst boss anyone's ever had. But no, like people get mad when we talk about comics too much.
All right, like just edit all that out.
These Star Trek nerds don't care about the funny
edit it
books.
all out. Nobody likes X-Men. Clearly, it's never been popular.
I have an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
I think that seeing good Michael from our universe makes Mirror Universe Georgiou want to be better. I think that when she's like, I'll tell Michael about what you did, Leland, I think that she's not actually going to do it. I think that she cares about Michael too much to open up that wound again.
We'll see.
I think that's a very Trek thematically Trek optimistic Federation idea.
It's hard to come back from eating people.
Right, but do you believe in? Here's a question: Do you believe in any rehabilitation? And if not, wouldn't you be for the death penalty for criminals for any sort of really bad crime?
I mean,
what a Star Trek conversation
by those standards.
What is this, a Next Generation episode?
I'd want Georgiou to be like in prison for like 20 or 30 years and actually go through like a believable rehabilitation. It wouldn't be dramatic. It wouldn't be good TV. I don't know. We'll see. If the execution is good enough, they might be able to pull it off, but I'm skeptical.
I do think you can't take a character who has eaten her enemies and turn on a dime. Her character, her growth will have to be a little bit pretty organic. And at some point, I think there may have to be some sort of... She's going to have to, I think, get her due, really confront herself and not just decide to be a better person and it's done or something.
My preference would be that they don't try to redeem her. And what do you?
I'm on Team Redemption.
So am I, but also consider that, like, especially with this season, I feel like they've like blunted a lot of the edges from the first season, and like I don't know if they'll bring up her, like, I mean, obviously she is the empress of an evil empire, but
But
at
they
the
like
same
haven't
time,
brought up the atrocities.
Yeah, they haven't mentioned like, oh yeah, she was extremely racist.
Right,
That
or they
never
didn't
brought
show
that
her
up
like
again.
with Section 31 torturing somebody.
Yeah,
In fact, they've mostly shown her doing things that may be helpful
Exactly.
to Burnham.
like.
That's interesting because that could just be somewhat blunting the edges of the first season.
Yeah, it could be that they just try to back off from that type
Right.
of
We
stuff.
need
and
the
not
show
bring it
to.
up,
We need her to be the lead on the show, and we can't have the lead on the show be a genocidal maniac.
But another possibility is that how Section 31 becomes the more secretive agency that it is later. Is maybe they do something like the Red Angel technology or something where it's like they erase people's memories, like galaxy wide, like
Right.
that's kind of like the Men in Black thing where they can erase people's memories. Like they do that like wide scale.
Hey, everybody in the galaxy, look at this.
Which that doesn't really seem like a Star Trek idea because it's such like a big giant magic wand to wave around. It feels like something more...
I don't mean to bring up comics again.
Well, I was gonna
But
say
that's how identities sometimes get put back in the bottle. Like somebody like Doctor Strange or
Yes.
something will be like,
everyone knows who Spider-Man is, and he makes a deal with the devil, and he gets divorced.
right. It's a crazy thing.
I'm still bitter about that. Also, I think like Angel did this when I don't want to spoil the Angel show, but like a character from that show gets like deleted from everyone's memories. Doctor Who has done stuff like that before, like with companions who forgot the Doctor, or the Doctor forgetting companions.
The fact that they high-level aliens are involved in this, I could even see that happening like this season. Like something happens during the course of all these events. It's not the main point of them, but it's some side thing. They're able to like take the Telosians or something like that, and the Telosians are like, yes, we will under duress project this thing out, which will span the whole galaxy and make everyone forget that Section 31 existed.
Oh yeah, they could use them, huh?
Yeah.
But
That's pretty high speculation for something that may just be they just wanted Section 31 to be more open because that's the story they wanted to tell. But if they are worried about continuity with DS9 ultimately, then yeah, either
according to Alex Kurtzman, he's like, yeah, we know that Section 31 is different in other
he
shows.
specifically is addressed.
Yes, that was an interview with like I believe Digital Spy, which that hadn't been brought to my attention until somewhat recently. But so he says he's going to try to fix it. If he will or not, we will find out.
Okay.
Are there any other hot topics that anyone feels we need to address?
Spock wears tight leather pants at the end of this episode. Put up a picture of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're watching this on
incredible.
YouTube or Facebook, you will see Spock in some tight leather pants.
That's all I've got.
Also, the Michael and Spock with their just completely stupid matching childhood haircuts.
Oh yeah, well that's just Vulcan
It's dumb.
conformity. Is that?
Yeah.
Couldn't
what's
they
weird is
conform to something cool though?
They were very puffy bowl cuts. Like I feel like the Vulcans in like say the 09 movie like were a little more fashionably bowl cut.
It's hard to have a fashionable bowl.
I know,
cut.
but there is an incremental scale as it turns out. What were you saying?
I was to say it would make perfect sense for them to do the stereotypically Vulcan thing since they are kind of outsiders and trying to fit in. But
Yeah.
it still looks stupid and I hate it.
Yeah, fair enough. You're just like I don't like it.
Well, Dave, can I go ahead and jump into the Easter eggs?
Let's do it.
So there were a few in this episode. First, Michael mentions that Spock's shuttle disappeared in the Matara sector.
Yep.
We know that is the home of the Matara Nebula and will eventually become home to the Genesis planet.
Yeah, it's the climactic fight, battle scene at the end of Star Trek with Khan versus the Enterprise.
And also in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
Right.
Most of the movie takes place there.
Yep. A popular vacation destination in the future.
With Spock being kind of crazy and mumbling to himself, is very similar to what we've seen Vulcans go through before sometimes. Sarek was doing a similar thing when he was having a mental breakdown in The Next Generation in the episode called Sarek. And also, Tuvok on Star Trek Voyager went insane in an alternate future in the series finale Endgame. So we've seen...
So Vulcan mumbling is a thing.
Yeah, when they're like mumbling and they're kind of like ignoring everyone around them, and it's a weird thing that Vulcans do, and they start going crazy.
It's a nice little bit of
And it
continuity.
happens. We do have the numbers that Spock is reciting that turned out to be the coordinates reversed, but in the order he was saying them, they end with 4 and 7, which the magic Star Trek number is 47 that recurs frequently in every show.
Their totemic number.
Yeah. Also, there's a little bit of a Lost reference in there, I think. I know Lost had like some numbers, and I think the first two...
Oh, I didn't look for that. I should have noticed that.
Yeah, the Lost numbers are 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42. These numbers, the first two are 8 and 4, so... They've acknowledged Lost before in Discovery.
Well, they should.
I'm not a fan of Lost, but I know that there's been some connection to recent Star Trek with some of the writers and J.J. Abrams and stuff being affiliated with Lost. Also, the trick that Pike does on the shuttlecraft to release the plasma and ignite it so that the Discovery can see them, that's the same trick that Spock does in Galileo 7 so the Enterprise can detect that shuttlecraft and rescue them.
I did not remember that. That's cool. That's like their survivalist episode.
And then we have the Sacred Crypt where Amanda was hiding Spock. Sarek mentions the Katra stones or Katra rocks. Katra stones.
I wasn't sure if that was just some Deus Ex Machina thing.
Well, they were saying that blocked like telepathic communication and helped hide Spock. But we did in Star Trek 09, we saw the Katra Ark. Where I'm assuming they just store like the Katras of like dead Vulcans. Like Katra, if you don't know, that's kind of like the Vulcan's soul.
This is from the end, or for not the end, but the part where he's rescuing him while Vulcan is being destroyed. Is that where they go to the...
In Star Trek 09, yeah.
Yeah.
But, the Katra, first established in Star Trek II, the Wrath of Khan, but this is kind of like all Vulcans, like all their thoughts and memories and experience, or like their soul. And we do know that like you can store those, apparently. We see that on Enterprise, or they have a Katra that is stored.
Like an old, like, Hellman's mayo jar.
Well, I don't think that's what they use. It was like more like a...
Space mayo jar.
It was a space vase that breaks to like release the Katra, but we'll call it a space vase. I don't know if this should really count as Easter egg, but the computer says working on the shuttlecraft. Which
that's an old Star Trek-y kind of working.
Well, that's pretty much all the Easter eggs. But of course, if I missed anything, be sure to let me know.
I've got one, Fatheree.
Okay, what's your Easter egg?
I don't know if this is an Easter egg, but like we talked about it, just that they changed up the opening sequence a little bit and dropped a little bit more of the Red Angel exosuit in there.
Yeah, we have a different shot of the Red Angel in the opening from what we've seen before. This shows a lot more detail.
It's that style where it looks like almost like an artist's digital rendering kind of slowly kind of filling out. It looks like almost like the underdrawing, and then it forms up like a more three-dimensional image. And it looks like a suit more obviously now, right?
Yeah, it looks more mechanical, whereas before it kind of looked more organic because it was less defined.
Yeah. That's like Game of Thrones style, changing up their introduction.
Thank you, Dave, for bringing that up. And if, again, any Easter eggs that we miss, be sure to let us know. And we'll give you credit for it. We'll give you a shout out. We'll read your feedback. Speaking of which, Dave has some audience feedback.
It's the mailbag.
And he's gonna share. So I think these comments are from YouTube.
Okay, yeah, I guess I don't have notes on where they came from. This is so first one I've got is from Stress Free K, who had I think was had a question for us previously or comments last week, and I think this is talking about the previous episode that had to do with the Saru and his people.
The Sound of Thunder.
Yeah, Sound of Thunder. Saru and his people becoming evolved and escaping the yoke of the Baul. So there were some moral questions in there about like turning clearly activating their evolution and dropping the old threat ganglia.
Yeah, we were debating if we thought that was the right choice for Captain Pike and the Discovery crew to make.
Yeah, can you just do that?
But we got a pretty convincing argument.
So Stress Free K comes in and says, I like that you take a definitive stand, but I disagree wholeheartedly. Josh and John... Who's Josh and John?
He's referencing the Neutral Zone guys that I didn't know about, but yeah, they had another take on it where they compare it to...
Neutral Zone guys like podcasters?
I think so. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
All right, let's just roll with it. Josh and John brought up Rwanda, and I felt the same way watching what was going on, because the Baul were curtailing their lifespans. That's still a form of genocide. This balance, in quotes, allowed the Baul to live rich and fulfilling lives and develop unfettered as a society, while the Kelpians were killed off before they could mature and fully realize their potential, and they were used as food. So the argument here is that it was a clear, like, moral imperative to liberate them.
Yeah,
I think.
He does make a pretty good case. When you bring up Rwanda, that does kind of make it feel a little bit more real. Or
Yeah, think about it, Fatheree.
Yeah, he probably did need to take some action there.
He goes on, or she goes on. I actually don't know. Picard may not have interfered because he got all bent out of shape when Worf's brother kept trying to save a small population of people whose planet was dying. And since Sarana, is that?
Yeah, the Saru's sister.
Was equally appalled that her people were getting killed off unnecessarily, it's safe to assume the entire race would feel the same way. I don't know if you could base an entire race.
It's a pretty big generalization.
Star Trek does kind of tend to do that. I guess you could argue she's essentially a highly placed figure as a priestess. But, well, there's a lot of assumptions that happen in Star Trek to make short little morality plays. But normally I wouldn't say, like, let's just trust this one priest.
There could be, like, this one little Kelpian nihilist edgelord who's just like, I want the entire world to die! I hate everything!
Kelpian edgelords, I love it. Stress Free K concludes, so instead of allowing the Baul to destroy Saru's entire village, he freed the entire race. He had no idea the Baul would have the capacity to kill them all, so yes, it would have been a bloodbath, because they couldn't target all the Baul's missiles, but Pike did warn them if they tried to do some crazy shit, the entire Federation would be on their ass. The Federation had been playing footsie with the Baul for too long and allowing their evil practices to flourish. I'm glad Pike took a stand. A lot more death could have resulted, but at some point, enough is enough.
Stress-free K, you might have convinced me, but I still think the episode could have benefited from just having some dialogue between some characters, just articulating some of these points that you're bringing up, and they could just talk about it and hammer it out a little bit. But like me and Dave frequently bring up, the show is more obsessed with high speed, high energy expedients, and doesn't do the
next generation debates.
Yeah,
doesn't always do that.
Sarana, that's her name.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sarana. Sort of. She's not even a particularly high-ranking priest. Like
I guess we don't. I don't know.
I mean, like, she's got one village.
She communicates with all the other villages, right?
Yeah, they do establish, like, the priests are the ones who, like, keep the villages in communication with each other.
So, like, it is a little weird for me that, like, she's not even, like, the Pope. She's, like, the preacher at your local church making a decision for everyone on the planet.
Right.
But, I mean...
But she's Saru's sister, and so we as the audience know she's extra trustworthy. I mean that is... I hate to say it, but that is, like, how we're meant to, like, take it.
You're right.
And yeah, it's like, I do think on Next Generation they would have got into that a little bit more. There would have been more devil's advocating and discussion going on.
Mm-hmm.
But that does seem to be, I don't know if would we call it a failing of Discovery, or is it just a different focus?
No, I think it's just a different show with different objectives and a different style.
Yeah. Let's move on. Our second letter here is from Kyle Dennis, who writes, I have a feeling the Red Angel is going to be former Emperor Georgiou from the future that has learned to be a legitimate good guy and is helping Michael and her family. So this goes back to our discussion earlier. She's helping the Kelpians as well due to feeling guilty for how she ate many of that species when she was in the Mirror Universe. They go on. Okay.
Alternatively, she's mad at the Baul for cramping her style. They jacked her favorite meals.
That's true. That's true. I don't know. Like, she could go down and it's like a ultimate buffet right now.
Yeah, but she's got to get rid of all the people in line first.
I mean, they're still there. The Kelpian's still alive for her to eat if she wants to.
Yeah.
She just loses the most delicate
But they're
part.
all, like, scary and aggressive now. So
yeah, now she's like, do I have to eat the dart? The darts in them?
Oh yeah, because they don't have the
it's not
fear
a
gangula.
delicious threat ganglia.
They
It's
have
not
attack gangula.
It's not the veal. It's like spike veal. So it's continuing to talk about the possibly reformed Georgiou, writes, we've seen a couple signs that she's softened somewhat from her time in the Prime Universe, so maybe she'll be using some future Section 31 tech to do some good. I'm probably wrong, but I could definitely see my theory being right. I mean, if they want Yo as the lead of Section 31 series, it would be better if she wasn't a mustache-twirling bad guy. So, I think
we shall see.
That was sort of what we touched on is, like, are they softening the style a little bit to A, launch a show, and B, to make this line up a little bit more with classic TOS and TNG style? I do hope that the swearing kind of returns.
Yeah, that was nice.
Because, like, we talked about this at the time. It was said not with anger, but exuberance.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was, really cute, honestly.
Yeah, it was adorable.
And, like, the bit where, like, Stamets, who's normally, like, a crusty bastard, just like, no, you're right, it is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that was just a cool moment.
I agree. It was a human moment for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
bring the swearing back.
Yeah, that's our main. If there's one message we're trying to deliver with this podcast, first of all, it's a debate about morality.
We know,
but just right under that is more swearing.
We have reason to believe that Alex Kurtzman listens to us.
What?
So Alex, just drop some F-bombs.
Yeah.
Picard show. I want to hear Picard say the fuck word.
And Patrick Stewart wants to. What were you saying?
Hashtag let Tilly say fuck.
Yes.
I like it. Let's get it trending.
Anything else, Fatheree?
I believe that's it. But Dave and I shall return next week to discuss Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 8, If Memory Serves.
Right on.
You don't know? Is that the name of the episode? Or are you trying to remember?
That is the name of the episode. That's also the name of a play about a man remembering or misremembering his childhood. So maybe that has
Spock's flashback
some
stuff.
Spock stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Looks like a good one.
And until then, as always,
live
long and prosper, y'all. Thank all of you so much for checking out this installment of TEX-TREK. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like our YouTube videos and subscribe to our channel. Audio-only version of episodes are available at our website, www.tex-trek.com. Please check out our site, especially if you just want an audio-only podcast. We have that available for you. Y'all can also keep up with us online. You can follow us on Twitter, @TEX-TREK. Or you can check us out on Facebook at www.facebook.com/tex-trek. Please, by all means, let us know what you think by dropping a comment anywhere you see fit. We definitely want to hear your feedback. Let us know what you liked and what you would like to see more of, what you would like to see differently going forward. If you want to email me directly, go ahead. I can be reached at fathereeactual@tex-trek.com. Thank all y'all again. Take care.